Hello everyone and welcome to the first episode of Cartoon Explained, the online show where I very quickly explain the plot and lore of shows so that you understand what everyone is freaking out about on social media. That, or maybe you just need a little refresher since it's been precisely 146 days since the last episode of one of the shows that you watch and your memory might be a little foggy. Whatever the reason, this show aims to give a recap covering every major and minor plot point so that fans both old and new aren't left behind and confused. And since we're this close to the premiere of the Diamond Days arc, I thought it would be a perfect time to cover a certain show about sentient rocks that's riddled with long hiatuses, Steven Universe. And speaking of extremely long hiatuses, do you ever feel like when the show is on hiatus that you have nowhere to talk about your favorite shows? Well, fear not, because today's sponsor will fix that problem. Welcome to Amino, the mobile app that is structured to fit your fandom needs. On Amino, you can join a variety of cartoon communities, Steven Universe included. We all know how long and grueling the Steven Universe hiatuses can be, and that's why this app is so great. You can pass the time waiting for the show to come back by talking to others in these communities. Like to test your knowledge on show lore and facts? There's a place for that in the quiz feature. Want to discuss new episodes when or while they're coming out? Use the chat feature. Or maybe you just want to share your art and grow your fan base. The amount of stuff you can do on this app is pretty astonishing and is a great way to pass the time waiting for the show to come back. It's always great to see what others in the fandom are doing and how the show inspires them and their art. It's also a great place for content creators like myself because we can post polls. I actually just posted a poll in the Steven Universe Amino right now, so you can go over and check it out. The question that I asked was, who's your favorite pearl? And of course, I chose Crystal Gem Pearl as my favorite, but I can't wait to see the results. We also have a brand new Amino community for the channel called the Tunavator community. I plan on sharing exclusive behind the scenes content of the channel, as well as posting Amino exclusive polls. If you'd like a place to talk to me or those in the community, you can join the Amino by clicking the link provided in both the description and the pinned comment. Thanks again, Amino, for sponsoring me, and now it's time to get on to the rest of the video. Steven Universe is a show that follows the misadventures of a young boy by the name of Steven Quartz Universe DeMeo. He lives in the Beach City Temple with his 3 guardians that belong to a group called the Crystal Gems, who are a non-human race called Gems. These guardians possess magical abilities and fight monsters that are often seen causing problems both in and outside of Beach City Delmarva. The names of these 3 guardians are Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl, who are aptly named after their gemstones implanted within their bodies. Steven is a half-gem on his mother's side, but does not have access to his magical abilities like the other gems do, much to his dismay. After accidentally activating his powers and summoning a shield, Steven is convinced that his abilities are activated through eating Cookie Cats, which is a discontinued ice cream brand. However, after a failed attempt to activate his powers and save the gems from an attack from a monster, he later finds out that ice cream has nothing to do with his powers, and that his powers are instead controlled by his emotions and emotional state. Discovering and learning how to use these abilities is the reason why he lives with the Crystal Gems and not his human father, Greg Universe. While Greg is a supportive father and loves his son very much, he cannot teach him properly about his gem half and how to control his gem powers. He instead lives nearby the temple in his van, running the local car wash as his main source of income. Rose Quartz, Steven's mother, fell in love with Greg many years ago, which eventually led to the birth of Steven. Steven never met his mother and she died upon his birth. Rose's death also left the Crystal Gems at the mercy of more powerful invaders and creatures, as first seen when they attempt to destroy a red eye looming over Beach City. Steven then discovers that he possesses the same powers as his mother, and they are able to destroy the red eye with ease. Upon realizing that Steven has potential and possesses the same powers that his mother did, they begin to take Steven with them on missions to train him to help teach him. This leads to many antics and mistakes on Steven's part, as he treats gem adventuring as something fun and not as a serious matter. His lack of knowledge leads to the collapse of an old gem structure, the possession of a Beach City mascot, and the attack of living cat fingers, to name a few. He eventually meets a girl by the name of Connie, who he saves from falling rocks by putting them in a protective bubble. The two quickly form a friendship, while Steven attempts to figure out how to get rid of the bubble that once protected them but is now trapping them. Connie reveals she has no friends because she moves around so much because of her father's job, and Steven tells her that they can be friends if she wants to. Also around this time, Steven meets a pink lion while on a mission with the gems. Because of his antics in the past, they tell him to wait outside while they deal with the dangerous part. While waiting, he runs into a pink lion, which he reasonably decides to call Lion. Lion follows him back to the temple for reasons unknown. It turns out that he followed them back to ensure that the sand-manipulating monster that they had fought earlier was defeated. When Amethyst makes a mistake and re-releases it on accident, Lion aids Steven in defeating it once more. Lion decides to stay with Steven and the gems in the temple, and Steven refers to him as his pet. Not too soon after this event, Garnet sends Steven, Amethyst, and Pearl on a mission to recover something called the Heaven Beetle. During this mission, Steven gets eaten by a bird-like monster, so Amethyst and Pearl need to initiate something called fusion to increase their power to save Steven. Fusion is the physical and mental combination of 2 or more gems, which happens to create an entirely new and more powerful being. The fusion between Amethyst and Pearl is named Opal and is more powerful than either Pearl or Amethyst. Opal successfully saves Steven and completes the mission, and Steven is praised by Garnet for forcing the two to get along. After the power of fusion is revealed, Steven finds out the gems can also lose their physical form upon being badly injured. He discovers this while Pearl is showing him some sword fighting techniques, but is distracted and impaled by Hollow Pearl, who she summoned to fight her. She poofs into a cloud of smoke and retreats into her gemstone, which prompts Garnet and Amethyst to explain to him that this is normal for them. Their bodies are only an illusion, so as long as their gemstone itself is intact, they will be fine. It takes Pearl 2 weeks to reform. When she comes back, she's in an entirely new outfit and has no trace of injuries that had made her poof in the first place. Weeks pass after this event, and Steven and Connie are going to see a movie together. Steven decides to try and impress Connie by having Lion take them to the movies, but Lion decides he has plans of his own. It's revealed that Lion has the ability to walk on water, as well as use his super-powered roars to warp them several hundred miles away into entirely new areas. He warps them to a mysterious cave full of weapons, where they are promptly attacked by a robot-like entity. Steven pulls the sword out of Lion's mane, and Connie uses her tennis abilities to defeat the robot with relative ease. More events happen over the course of the next few weeks and months, including an accidental destruction of a Beach City restaurant, the introduction of Garnet and Amethyst's fusion Sugilite, Lars attempting to fit in with the other residents of Beach City and making a fool of himself, and Steven accidentally creating multiple timelines with some gem tech he found. He even discovers that his mother's old room has the ability to create whatever he wishes from nothing, even though the process is rather limited. We're then introduced to Centipeetle when Steven accidentally bursts a bubble that she's contained in within the bubble room. She is a smaller and less dangerous form of the monster that they fought at the start of the story. Steven manages to befriend her, and she ultimately ends up saving his life before she's poofed and bubbled again. With Steven's life being as exciting as ever, he takes a picnic with Connie to vent about his latest magical adventure. He admits to her that Amethyst cracked her gem while fooling around, which caused her body to stop working properly. It's then revealed that Rose Quartz had healing tears and that Steven probably has them as well. Unfortunately, Steven can't force himself to cry, so they take a trip to Rose's fountain, which the gems also heal themselves at. The fountain is dried up, and so even at the fountain they are unable to heal Amethyst. Pearl and Garnet eventually get the fountain back in working order and heal Amethyst, but Steven is upset because he feels like he's useless. Connie then comforts him, telling him that she still wants to be friends with him even if he isn't magical. Connie abruptly backs away, claiming to have a headache before it's revealed that Connie's eyes have been healed and that she no longer needs her glasses. Steven then figures out that he doesn't have healing tears, but he does have healing spit. He finds this out because he and Connie had shared a juice box earlier while he was telling her his story. With all this happening, Steven is craving a little bit of normalcy. After a conversation with Connie about summer vacation, Steven asks Pearl to teach him something so that he can go on summer vacation just like Connie. Pearl then gives Steven a mirror that can show him everything in gem history, but it appears to be broken and doesn't work. Pearl lets Steven keep the mirror, thinking that it's broken. Throughout the day, Steven realizes that the mirror is sentient and can replay parts of his speech to communicate. The gems find out about this and try to get the mirror back from Steven. Steven runs away with the mirror when the mirror gives him instructions on how to free it. Steven ends up freeing a gem by the name of Lapis Lazuli, whose gemstone was being used to power the mirror as a tool. Lapis attacks the crystal gems before running off, telling Steven not to trust them. The next morning, Beach City's ocean has disappeared, and the gems know that Lapis is the reason why. They go out to find her, where it is then revealed that the monsters that they've been fighting used to be exactly like them. They've become corrupted and monstrous, not remembering who or what they are. Feeling bad about the situation and wanting to help, Steven tries to talk to Lapis into giving the ocean back. Once that doesn't work, a fight between Lapis and the gems take place. Eventually, Lapis agrees to let Steven talk to her, and she takes him up to see her. It's then revealed that Lapis can't get home because her gem is cracked. Steven admits to her that he has healing powers, and he heals her gem using his spit. Because her gem is now healed, Lapis is able to sprout wings made of water, and she flies off into space. Things are pretty quiet for a while. Lapis seemingly is gone forever. Pearl tries and fails to take Steven to space. Ronaldo has conspiracy theories about Sneeple, and Steven finds out he can bring plants to life and create plant armies. Then one night, Lion starts acting weird. It turns out that Lion has an entire dimension in his mane that Steven can access whenever he wants. The mane contains a chest, a tree, a flag, a bubbled gem, and a VHS tape. Steven takes out the VHS tape and watches it, and this is where we're introduced to and see Rose Quartz for the very first time. Rose explains that she and Steven cannot exist at the same time, but that she's happy to become a part of him. And unfortunately, things don't remain nice and calm for the gems. Steven catches a glimpse of something in the warp stream, and they investigate it and find out that a gem named Peridot is attempting to repair warps that establish a travel point between Earth and Homeworld, which is the gem home planet. While these gems are nervous and preoccupied about this troubling information, Steven and Connie hang out to unwind. They dance together and accidentally fuse into the fusion that goes by the name of Stevani. Things go back to being quiet, but Steven is determined to prove to the crystal gems that he's ready and capable to fight alongside them. Around the same time as this, Amethyst is reprimanded for being childish and decides to run off with Steven to be a no-homeboy. Amethyst takes Steven to a kindergarten, which she reveals was her old home before she found Pearl, Garnet, and Rose. Pearl comes in to crash the party and reveals that kindergartens are the way the gems reproduce and make more of themselves. However, it destroys the land around the gem that is created there and steals the Earth's life. Amethyst admits to having a hatred towards herself and how she was made, but the situation is de-escalated once Pearl reassures her no one else blames her for how she was made and that she still cares about her. The Flask Robonoids return, disrupting the calming atmosphere. Steven suggests that they follow the Robonoid to find out what it's trying to do, and so against their better judgment they decide to follow it. They then yet again find Peridot and reveal themselves to her after Steven decides to introduce himself. The gems think that she's attempting to reactivate the kindergarten, and so they attack her. Peridot leaves, shouting that she's reporting this incident before disappearing. Having seemingly dealt with Peridot, the gems decide to return to the Strawberry battlefield to clean up some lost weapons in the area. They stumble across Rose's scabbard, which causes Pearl to lament about the Great War that was fought there right where they were standing. Steven is inquisitive about the war and his mother, so he and Pearl go on an adventure to Rose's armory in the search of Rose's sword. It turns out that the sword previously given to Steven by Lion was Rose's old sword, and Pearl becomes very upset that Rose had secrets that she didn't know about. She runs away in great distress and Steven chases after her. It's then revealed that Pearl had romantic feelings for Rose and that the death of Rose had destroyed her emotionally. She reveals that everything that she ever did in her life was done for Rose and that she feels lost without her. Steven comforts her and tells her he thinks she's pretty great, managing to calm her down. Not too long after this, Greg reveals that he met Rose through a concert that he was having at Beach City. He performed, and Rose was the only one who showed up to see him play. When they were about to leave Beach City, Greg decided not to and headed back for Rose, who he played a song for in front of the temple as a way to serenade her. Obviously, Greg's methods of seduction ended up working. And then, seemingly out of nowhere, a gem device called the Wailing Stone begins to emit a horrible noise. Greg is able to translate it to something that they can understand, and it turns out that it was Lapis trying to warn them of an incoming invasion. This causes a panic for the gems as they now know that gems from Homeworld are coming for them. And true to Lapis's warning, a ship in the shape of a hand comes down and invades Earth. Aboard the ship is Peridot, Lapis, and a new gem by the name of Jasper. Jasper attacks the gems, poofs Garnet, and knocks out Steven. Steven wakes up inside the hand ship and discovers he's able to go through the force field that's keeping him trapped. He finds a gem by the name of Ruby, who insists on finding a gem by the name of Sapphire. Once Sapphire is found and reunited with Ruby, it's revealed that Ruby and Sapphire are actually Garnet, and Garnet was a fusion all along. Garnet then proceeds to fight Jasper and wins. The ship crash lands on Earth, Peridot ejecting herself an escape pod before it does. The gems think that they've won before Jasper emerges from the rubble along with Lapis. She then asks Lapis to fuse with her so that they can fight and win against the crystal gems, to which Lapis agrees. Lapis and Jasper fuse into an unstable gem fusion by the name of Malachite. It's then revealed that Lapis tricked Jasper and only fused with her so that she could protect Steven, and drags the fusion to the bottom of the ocean so that she can't hurt anyone. The season starts off right after the invasion from Homeworld has ended. Steven tells his father enthusiastically about the Homeworld invasion, not really grasping the severity of it. This sends Greg into a panic attack and serves as a wake-up call to Steven as to how serious the situation is. He then starts to distance himself from the non-gem crowd, but Connie ends up calling Steven out on this and tells him that she wants to be by his side no matter what. Now that things have somewhat calmed down, the gems are on the search for Peridot and Malachite. Steven ends up finding Peridot's escape pod, but there's no trace piece of malachite. Connie commits to wanting to help Steven in his battles and ends up making the decision to let Pearl teach her sword fighting. Connie ends up developing a harmful mentality that she doesn't matter from her training sessions, but Steven instills the mentality within her that if they fight together. This strengthens their relationship with Pearl as she realizes why that way of thinking is harmful. She then begins to train both Steven and Connie together. A while after Connie's training begins, the gems decide to pay a visit to the kindergarten. They end up finding Peridot and attempt to capture her, but they end up failing. Garnet and Steven decide to investigate what Peridot was doing and end up stumbling across forced fusion experiments, which are gems who are shattered pieces that have been fused and forced together in experimentation. Garnet nearly unfuses because of this, but manages to pull through and poof the experiments. Their luck continues to go in a downward spiral as they attempt to find Lapis, who is still fused with Jasper. They try searching the ocean but have no luck. Steven ends up falling asleep and accidentally and unknowingly connects with Lapis telepathically while he sleeps. After a few tries, he manages to talk to Lapis and finds out that she's still fused as Malachite and is unable to continue to remain in control of the fusion for much longer. The gems temporarily push the search for Malachite aside once they find Peridot broadcasting from one of the old gem broadcasting towers that Sugilite previously destroyed. Garnet and Pearl fuse into the gem Sardonyx to destroy the towers and end the broadcast from Peridot. Once this keeps happening over and over again, Amethyst and Steven become curious and decide to investigate. They find out that Peridot was the culprit of the broadcast the first time, but that Pearl came back and reactivated the tower the other times. Steven and Amethyst tell Garnet what Pearl was doing, and Pearl tries to explain that she only did it to share a few more victories with Garnet. Garnet pushes Pearl aside before fusing with Amethyst into Sugilite to finish the job for the final time. Upset and hurt by Pearl's actions, Garnet goes on a trip with Steven and Greg a few states away. She infuses and Ruby and Sapphire begin to fight over how they're both handling the situation. They both forgive each other once they stop and take a moment to understand how and why they're feeling the way that they are, and then they head back home. Desperate to make it up to Garnet, Pearl rewires Peridot's escape pod to track her movements and attempt to capture her. It works, but in her feverish attempt to mend their broken relationship, she ends up leading them directly into Peridot's trap. Stuck and with nowhere to go, Pearl and Garnet are forced to talk to each other. Pearl admits that she feels useless on her own and that she's a Pearl and she feels she can't do anything by herself. Garnet tells her that she's wrong and that she needs to fight that mentality if she wants to get better and she wants her to trust her again. Pearl finally gets the message and they fuse into Sardonyx and escape the trap. They fail to capture Peridot, but they are successful in beginning to mend their broken relationship. However, as luck would turn it, Peridot comes to them to kidnap Steven to try and get home. The gems rescue Steven and capture Peridot, but not before Peridot begins to say something ominous. Steven knows she was about to say something important and releases her from her bubble to hear it. Peridot escapes yet again, barricading herself in Steven's bathroom. After a bit of trust building, Peridot reveals to Steven that there's a giant forced gem experiment called the Cluster in the center of the Earth. Steven convinces her to tell the crystal gems about it so that they can formulate a plan. They decide that they're going to drill into the center of the Earth and destroy the cluster before it has a chance to emerge and destroy the Earth in the process. They go to the barn to begin construction on the drill, but run into a few roadblocks. Peridot insults both Pearl and Amethyst, causing detours from their plans and delaying the construction of the drill. It's also here that we find out that Pearls are nothing more than objects to their superiors. She slowly learns that Homeworld ranks don't apply on Earth and begins to appreciate the growing friendships that she is developing with the crystal gems. However, this all goes downhill once they find out they need the cluster's coordinates. Pearl states that the moon base probably has them, and so they take Lion there as they have no other way of traveling to the moon. While there, they find the insertion point of the cluster, but Peridot also reveals other plans that had been made for the Earth's colonization. She insults the crystal gems and tells them that all that they did was for nothing. She swipes a communication device from the moon base while they're leaving. She then attempts to contact Yellow Diamond, and after some time manages to do just that. She attempts to reason with Yellow Diamond to get her to reconsider using the Earth to harvest the cluster, but Yellow Diamond disagrees with her and is outraged. The argument ends with Yellow Diamond hanging up and remotely detonating the communication device. Because Peridot is now classified as a traitor, she joins the crystal gems officially. The season starts out with the accidental location discovery of Malachite. Steven somehow connects and takes over the body of a watermelon Steven while sleeping, discovering the location of the forced fusion. Malachite was hiding in the ocean near Mask Island, where her internal fight raged on, Steven accompanying them within the body of one of the watermelon Stevens. The gems fuse into Alexandrite to fight Malachite and end up narrowly winning with the help of the watermelon Stevens. The gems manage to save Lapis, but Jasper is lost when an earthquake shakes the island and opens opens a hole in the ground, which Jasper ends up falling inside of. It turns out that the earthquake was actually caused by the cluster attempting to emerge, and so Steven has no choice but to go alone with Peridot and attempts to stop it from emerging. Peridot and Steven successfully reach the cluster, but are discouraged when the drill is breaking down and not doing much damage. Steven ends up connecting mentally with the cluster and calms it down and stops it from emerging. He then encourages them all to help bubble each other so that they cannot emerge and they can stay where they are in peace. Steven and Peridot then make it back to the surface and tell the others how they managed to stop it. Lapis then awakes and decides that she needs to leave, but then quickly realizes that she has nowhere to go and promptly returns back to Earth. Steven then tries to find Lapis a new place to live, at which time we also discover Lapis was a gem who got caught up in the war and was mistakenly thought to be a crystal gem and was imprisoned in the mirror. She ultimately decides to stay and live at the barn, but is extremely upset to find that Peridot is already living there. Because of Lapis's past with Peridot, the idea of living with her is distressing to say the least. Peridot tries to apologize to her and make it up to Lapis by giving her gifts and promising to respect her boundaries, but none of these things work until she promises to leave and never come back. She's then chased back by a roaming eye, which Lapis protects Peridot from by knocking it into the ground. 5 rubies who are searching for Jasper then emerge from the roaming eye, and the crystal gems come up with a plan to distract them by playing baseball. However, their plan fails and they end up tricking the rubies into thinking Jasper is on the planet Neptune and not Earth. They all fall for it, and this leaves the gems unharmed. Lapis and Peridot officially move into the barn together. Shortly after this, Greg's old band partner Marty returns to Beach City to give Greg a check. Greg is given a check because Marty sold the rights of Greg's song, Like a Comet, to a famous fast food chain Pepe's Burgers. Greg, now being a multi-millionaire, decides to take Steven on a trip to Empire City, but Steven invites Pearl to go with them, seeing the tension between the two over Rose. During this trip, Pearl sings about how she lost Rose to Greg and how she is unable to get over her. Greg overhears the song and realizes that things between him and her are never going to get better. Steven encourages the two to talk it out, and they end up understanding each other and being more comfortable interacting with one another. A lot happens after this, including discovering Peridot isn't able to shapeshift or summon a weapon, Steven accidentally taking over Lars's body, a road race between Kevin and Stefani, and shenanigans involving the Beach City restaurants. But things start to become overwhelming again when Steven realizes that his healing powers have returned and he decides he wants to try and fix Centipeetle. He is able to uncorrupt her halfway, just enough for her to communicate with Steven and the gems. She tells Steven that she was caught up in an attack from the diamonds, which was called the damage of the diamonds. This attack is what caused her and the countless other of corrupt gems to become corrupt. Steven then takes her back to the ship and reunites her with her crewmates who are also corrupted gems. With everything going on, Greg decides to get Steven to relax by taking him on a cruise. Steven takes Lapis with him to try and make her more comfortable, but they end up getting hunted down by Jasper, who has been searching for Lapis since they were split up. Jasper asks Lapis to fuse with her again, but Lapis launches her back into the ocean. This doesn't keep Jasper away for long, however, as Pearl, Connie, and Steven accidentally stumble upon her during one of their training sessions. Jasper poofs some corrupted gems before disappearing into a blizzard, leaving the trio alone for the time being. However, she returns yet again to face Amethyst, Steven, and Connie, this time using the corrupted gems that she captured from when they last saw her. Amethyst poofs one of the corruptions, but then is poofed by Jasper after Jasper talks down on her for being a defective quartz. Steven and Connie fuse into Stefani and fight against Jasper and win, driving her back into the ocean. Feeling useless and weak, Amethyst trains with Pearl and Steven in attempts to get stronger. The two end up both realizing that they have a lot of the same self-loathing issues as each other, and their bond becomes stronger as a result. Not too long after this, Steven accidentally unbubbles the gem in Lion's mane. The gem goes by the name Bismuth and is one of the original crystal gems. It turns out that Rose bubbled Bismuth because she planned to shatter the diamonds with the breaking point, which was a weapon of her own invention. Rose disagreed with Bismuth's way of approaching the situation, and so she poofed and bubbled her away without telling anyone what had happened. Bismuth ends up trying to introduce the idea of the breaking point to Steven, and he reacts in the same way that Rose did. Steven ends up defending himself, and once again, Bismuth ends up back in a bubble. Unlike his mother, however, he does tell the gems the truth that Rose neglected to tell them. Their luck continues to be awful while Peridot, Steven, and Amethyst accidentally stumble upon where Jasper has been hiding since she was launched off the ship by Lapis. It turns out that she is creating an army of corrupted gems to fight Steven with, who she is convinced is Rose. Amethyst ends up trying to fight Jasper, but gets beaten badly by her until she receives a pep talk from Steven. The two fuse into Smoky Quartz and end up being stronger than Jasper. Jasper, however, will not accept the loss and forcefully fuses with the corrupted gem in order to become stronger and defeat Smoky Quartz. The corrupted gem unfuses with with her, and Jasper is left alone and begins to corrupt as a side effect. Once she's fully corrupted, Peridot successfully poofs her with a slab of metal using her metal powers. Amethyst bubbles her away and sends her off to the temple, happy that the ordeal is over but saddened by the outcome. No sooner did they finish off the Jasper issue, the 5 rubies return and continue their search for the now bubbled and corrupted Jasper. Amethyst decides to shapeshift and fool them into thinking that she's Jasper while they go to the moon base to file a progress report on their mission. It's revealed here that Rose Quartz shattered Pink Diamond. Steven, in disbelief of this newfound fact, denies the statement. The rubies find out that Amethyst isn't Jasper and attempt to attack the crystal gems. However, before they can get an attack in on them, Garnet and Pearl fuse into Sardonyx and hit them out of the moon base. Unfortunately, Steven gets dragged out with them and sucked into space. Steven manages to bubble himself in an airtight bubble, but finds he's been trapped with a ruby that he nicknamed Eyeball. Eyeball, upon finding out he's Rose Quartz, tries to kill him, and he throws her outside of the bubble. The gems end up finding him using the ruby's roaming eye ship, but only after he's almost died from suffocation and hypothermia. They return home back to Earth, leaving the rubies in space. During Stevani's battle training, they are unable to keep themselves together and keep on fusing. Connie reveals to Steven that she is unable to focus on staying fused because she feels bad about a kid at school whose arm she accidentally broke. Garnet helps the two by teaching them a lesson about fusion and how to control intrusive thoughts. This helps Connie out considerably, but leaves Steven stuck with his own thoughts. He then reveals to Connie that he blames himself for everything that's gone wrong recently. He blames himself for Bismuth, Jasper, Eyeball, and even for not living up to Rose's legacy. Connie is able to calm him down and make him realize that he needs to work through these feelings to feel better, no matter how awful they may be. Once Steven is feeling a bit better about these issues, he decides it's time to press for answers. He begins to have strange dreams that cause him to wake up crying and realize these dreams are somehow related to Pink Diamond. He and Connie find a book with information related to the Palanquin and bring it to Garnet and Pearl's attention, but they refuse to give him any information on it. Frustrated with the gems not giving him answers despite promising they would, he and Greg go to Korea to solve the mystery. Unfortunately, it ends in disaster when Greg is kidnapped by Blue Diamond, who is in the area grieving for Pink Diamond. Steven and the gems rush to save Greg, coming to the conclusion that Blue Diamond brought him to the human zoo. They use the roaming eye ship to arrive at the human zoo and disguise themselves as gems who were sent on a mission to drop off another human. The guard then puts Steven in the zoo, where he discovers an entire civilization of humans that were left behind once the gem war ended. Greg and Steven narrowly escape the zoo with the help of their new amethyst friends and try to make a beeline back to their ship. However, they're caught in the middle once Steven and Greg accidentally run into Blue Diamond again. Yellow Diamond then also emerges, and the two talk about Pink Diamond and how they're still grieving for her even though it's been several thousand years since her death. Once they're done, they manage to escape the zoo and make it back home in one piece. However, all this talk about Rose Quartz and Pink Diamond gets Steven thinking. He decides to use Rose's room as a way to talk to Rose and ask her questions about why she shattered Pink Diamond and why she had him. Steven then realizes that she's not actually there and that Rose is only telling him what he wants to hear, and he promptly leaves the room upset. He's cheered up once the gems and his dad bring him pizza for dinner and make him feel better, and he realizes that this is all the family he needs. Steven's existential crisis continues, however, only becoming worse. He finds Rose's old belongings in a dump-like area along with a tape titled Nora. This tape was meant to be for Steven if he ended up being a girl, since Greg and Rose both didn't know what gender Steven was. Steven asks for Greg on answers on why Rose had him, and Greg's answer failed to quell Steven's ever-growing issue. Not too long after this, Beach City citizens begin to disappear. First Onion, then Lars, Sadie, and Jamie. At this same time, a strange gem by the name of Aquamarine appears. Aquamarine then kidnaps Connie with the help of a fusion named Topaz, revealing that she was there to capture humans to bring to the human zoo for Blue Diamond. In order to protect his friends and have them released, Steven reveals who he is to Aquamarine. Aquamarine, knowing that bringing back Rose Quartz is far more valuable to the diamonds than a few measly humans, agrees and lets the others go. Despite the frantic calls from the gems and from Steven's friends, he sacrifices himself and leaves with Aquamarine to go to Homeworld. Once Steven is inside Aquamarine's ship, he realizes that Lars failed to escape and is stuck on the ship with him. He begs Aquamarine to let him go, but she just laughs at the request and continues on their way to Homeworld. Lars and Steven talk to each other about the mess that they're in, and Steven admits to Lars that he's scared and he feels guilty, but he's glad that he's there with him. Their conversation touches Topaz because she relates to their current problem. She decides to help Lars and Steven escape, but they're stopped by Aquamarine once they reach Homeworld. Steven is then separated from Lars and is thrown into an empty room. He's soon greeted by a gem by the name of Blue Zircon, who will be representing him in a court case. That court case being the trial of Rose Quartz and her involvement in shattering Pink Diamond. While attempting to defend Steven and prove his innocence, Blue Zircon realizes that the entire Rose Quartz shattered Pink Diamond story just didn't add up given the facts. She then begins to question who did the shattering and how. She ends up accusing the diamonds of being the true possible culprits, and because of her accusation, she is poofed. Blue and Yellow then get in an argument, which leaves Steven the time to escape with Lars. They escape using Blue Diamond's palanquin and fall into the depths of Homeworld. It's there that they meet a group of outcasted gems called the Off-Colors. This group consists of the Rutile twins, a Padparacha Sapphire, Fluorite, and a Rhodonite. These gems are on the run from their superiors for one reason or another and are in danger of being shattered. After being discovered, Lars risks his life and is killed trying to protect the Off-Colors. Steven brings Lars back to life with his tears, causing his hair and skin to turn pink just like Lion's. After making sure and checking to see if Lars is okay and doesn't have any side effects to being brought back to life, he discovers that just like with Lion, he is able to get inside of his hair. Steven then uses Lars's hair to travel back home through both Lars and Lion to get back to the temple. He returns to Lars with food and supplies, but realizes that there's no way everyone is going to fit through his head and escape. Lars tells Steven that he needs to go help with the gems and that they can handle themselves and escape. Steven agrees and leaves Lars to go back to the gems. After welcoming Steven back home, Connie is less than happy with his selfless actions and cuts ties with him. She's upset that even after agreeing that they were in this together, Steven went and made the decision to sacrifice himself without even giving them the chance to fight back. Steven becomes extremely depressed, and so the gems decide to take him on a vacation to get him to relax. Thinking he's upset about Pink Diamond, they try and give him the answers he's been looking for, but he's too upset about his relationship with Connie to care. Pearl tries to tell him something important, but is seemingly stopped and silenced by her own hands. Steven then reveals that he's not upset about Pink Diamond, he's upset because he's convinced that Connie hates him. The gems manage to calm him down and comfort him, taking him out of his depressive episode. To add to the stress and mess that the gems are currently facing, upon hearing about what Steven just went through with the diamonds, Lapis panics and decides to leave Earth, taking Peridot with her. Steven rushes to remedy the situation and to say goodbye, but Peridot admits to him that she doesn't want to leave the Earth. She eventually admits this to Lapis and asks her to stay with her, but Lapis turns her back on Peridot and leaves, taking the entire barn with her. Thankfully, however, Connie and Steven manage to mend their relationship at Kevin's party, and their relationship returns to normal after Steven admits that his actions were wrong. Now with their relationship repaired, they go to visit Lars, who has managed to steal a ship from a gem by the name of Emerald. They escaped Homeworld and are currently on their way back to the Earth. When things head south and they're under attack, Steven and Connie fuse into Stevani and aid Stars in interstellar battle. Unfortunately, Stevani is shot down in their ship and it crash lands on an alien planet called the Jungle Moon. They discover that this moon has an old diamond base on it, which specifically belonged to Yellow Diamond. While Stevani sleeps that night, they have a dream where they're Pink Diamond and they're having an argument with Yellow Diamond over planets and colonies. They end up being rescued by Lars and the Off-Colors, but the dream that they had only creates more unanswered questions. Once back home, Steven decides to take Garnet with him to meet Lars and the Off-Colors, and it's there that she explains who the crystal gems are and who Rose Quartz was. At first, the Off-Colors don't believe that Rose was real, which is what prompts the story from Garnet. She explains that Rose Quartz was a regular gem, just like them. However, she was tired of watching the Earth die and seeing the gems treated unfairly, so she rebelled against Pink Diamond and shattered her after Pink Diamond refused to stop colonizing Earth. The Off-Colors don't think that this story has a happy ending. Not too long later, one night while Steven is sleeping, Ronaldo wakes him up to notify him that he's found something on the moon. Steven is bothered by this but goes to check anyways and realizes that it's actually the barn that's on the moon and not the moon base. He rushes to the moon on Lion, knowing Lapis must be there. He finds her spying on the gems on Earth, watching everything from afar. When Steven asks why she's there and not back on Earth, she says it's because if she goes back that things can't be the same. Steven then falls asleep and has a vision, this time of Pink, Blue, and Yellow Diamond. Both the Elder Diamonds are reprimanding Pink for not finishing her job as a diamond, and it ends with a silhouette that's similar to Pearl's coming up behind Pink Diamond and unsheathing what looks like is Rose's sword. This causes Steven to jolt awake and alert Lapis. He makes the mistake of telling Lapis he had a dream about the diamonds, which causes Lapis to become afraid and fly away from the moon and from the Earth, this time for good. Steven then asks Lion to take him to Pearl, knowing that the answer answers lie with her. Eager to get answers, Steven asks Pearl directly if she's the one who shattered Pink Diamond. Pearl reacts immediately by covering her mouth, her hands almost as if they acted on their own. Once the opportunity arises, Pearl leaves the room to escape the situation. Frustrated with Pearl, Steven leaves to get some fresh air. However, this doesn't last too long as he receives a text from Pearl that reads, "I want to tell you, but I can't." This causes Steven to rush home, eager for the answers he thinks he's about to get. Pearl is confused as she didn't send the text message herself, but quickly realizes who did. She sends Steven into her gem to retrieve the cell phone, which causes Steven to travel deep into Pearl's memories. It's there that he finds the truth. Rose Quartz was Pink Diamond, and she faked her own death. Pearl shapeshifted into Rose and used Rose's sword, which couldn't shatter a gem, to fake Pink Diamond's shattering. Pink Diamond then placed a magical seal on Pearl to prevent her from speaking about the truth, which means only Pearl and nobody but Pearl knew what really happened. Upon Steven exiting Pearl's gem, her seal is broken and she is able to tell the truth. She explains what happened to Amethyst and Garnet, and the truth causes Garnet to split apart. Ruby and Sapphire separate, and Sapphire runs off to Rose's fountain. Steven and Pearl chase after her to explain Rose's actions and to calm her down. It's revealed that Pink Diamond was in love with the Earth and she wanted to protect it. However, when she begged Blue and Yellow Diamond to allow her to set the Earth free, they told her to finish what she started. She began to disguise herself as Rose Quartz and staged a rebellion to free the Earth. It was the only way that she thought was possible. This calms Sapphire down and she decides to return to Ruby, only to find that she's missing. Steven and Amethyst end up finding Ruby with Greg, only to find that she's seemingly gotten over Sapphire and is happy being split apart. They end up going on a Wild West adventure to help Ruby find herself, but it ends with Ruby admitting that she misses Sapphire and that she was just putting on an act. Ruby and Steven then devise a plan on a way she can return to Sapphire in a way that is totally her decision. Ruby returns to Sapphire riding horseback on Amethyst and then asks Sapphire if she will marry her. Sapphire says yes, and the two become engaged. While planning their wedding, Sapphire and Ruby are upset over all the empty seats and all their dead and corrupted friends who couldn't attend. Steven decides to free Bismuth for their wedding and unbubbles her. He explains everything to Bismuth and she takes it rather well until Steven tells her that she's a surprise guest. She feels that the gems won't accept her back because she tried to kill Steven, but he manages to convince her that they'll all be happy to see her. She comes with wedding rings as a present and Ruby and Sapphire are overjoyed to see her. The big wedding day finally comes and all goes well. Garnet reforms and enjoys her wedding day until Blue and Yellow Diamond crash the party. They immediately attempt to wake the cluster up from its slumber and succeed, only for the cluster to begin fighting with Yellow Diamond's ship. While the cluster fights against one diamond, Blue Diamond decides to fight the crystal gems. Steven tries to explain to her who he is, but she isn't willing to listen to him and attacks him. The gems try to fight back but are unable to because of Blue Diamond's aura, causing them to feel extreme amounts of grief. However, Lapis comes in at the nick of time and smashes the barn over Blue Diamond's head, freeing the gems from Blue Diamond's aura. They then proceed to fight Blue Diamond and manage to make her fall over before Yellow Diamond joins in and begins to fight alongside her, poofing Peridot. She then attacks Steven and knocks him out, causing him to have an out-of-body experience. Steven then discovers that he has aura abilities similar to Blue Diamond, and he uses them to make Blue and Yellow Diamond realize who he is, but not before Lapis is also poofed. Once they realize who Steven is, the fighting stops. When Steven wakes up, he explains to the Diamonds that he is Pink Diamond and he doesn't have any of her memories. He then also shows them Centipeetle and her crew and attempts to make them understand the damage they've done. Blue and Yellow Diamond were unaware that they caused this corruption and don't know how to fix it. After failing to fully uncorrupt Centipeetle, who is revealed to be Nephrite, they suggest that they need help from White Diamond in order to fully uncorrupt her permanently. With the knowledge of a new Diamond, Steven has his mind set on finding her and negotiating with her to uncorrupt the corrupted gems. They find Pink Diamond's old leg ship and make their way to Homeworld, and it's revealed that White Diamond hasn't left Homeworld in thousands upon thousands of years. Once they arrive, they're greeted by White Diamond's Pearl. White Pearl takes Steven to White Diamond, who is unusually happy to see him. She calls him Starlight and asks if he's done with his little games, before completely dismissing his responses and sending him off to Pink Diamond's old room. Steven can be seen glancing out over Homeworld and at White Diamond's ship before the episode ends. And that's it. If you made it through this video, then congratulations, you're all caught up with the story and lore of Steven Universe. If you like this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you would like to support my work, check out my Patreon and my merch store. And I will see you all in the next episode of Cartoon Explained.